This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss everything in the wide world of sports. I am Ben.
And I'm Anthony.
And Alex is out of the studio today. He is not feeling quite well, so he will hopefully be back tomorrow with you, Anthony, as I will not be here. Right. But since Alex is not here, it is your normal Friday crew, Anthony and myself, here on a Wednesday, going to be leading you into the show today. Going to be talking obviously about the World Series last night in Cleveland, Progressive Field. We had the Cleveland Indians host Game 1 of the World Series for the first time in franchise history against the Chicago Cubs from the National League. And then right across the street, we had the Cleveland Cavaliers raising the championship banner from last year, overcoming a 3-1 deficit over the Golden State Warriors to win the NBA Finals. They raised their banner last night against the New York Knicks. Had a pretty convincing win as well. We're going to talk some basketball in this show for the first time really since May and June, since Alex and I were doing it with the finals and the conference finals back when we actually started the podcast. So we'll talk about basketball in our second segment of the day. But first off, we're going to be talking baseball. As I mentioned, we had Game 1 of the World Series last night, and the Cleveland Indians shut out the Chicago Cubs 6-0 behind some very, very good pitching by former American League Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber of Cleveland.
Yeah, no, Kluber was insane. He struck out 8 of the first 9, 8 strikeouts, I should say, in the first 3 innings. 8 of the first 9 outs were strikeouts. He was rolling. Got into, a little bit of trouble, I guess you want to say, later on. But, then you brought in Andrew Miller, had the bases loaded, worked out of that, and pretty much after that, you really didn't have, you could have a little bit of hope with the Cubs or whatever, because the Cubs, their offense is great. But once Andrew Miller was able to get out of that, stress in the 7th inning, it was pretty much done for there.
I couldn't agree with you more. I thought after the Cubs did not get a run in that 7th inning when they had the bases loaded with no one out, I knew the game was over. Because when you look at Andrew Miller all postseason long, and even last series in the ALCS against Toronto, he was the MVP for a reason. He went 25 innings so far in this postseason before last night, didn't even give up a run. Faced 78 total batters, didn't give up a run. He was striking everybody out, especially the left-handers. So I knew that when they got out of that jam, when the Cubs should have easily gotten at least one run on the board,
just one, yeah,
and don't get any, I knew the game was over. And at that time, it was 3-0, and the Indians go on to score 6. Roberto Perez has 2 home runs and 4 RBIs for the Tribe, and he did a great job behind the plate as well, catching Kluber. A lot of people were kind of saying that Corey Kluber maybe got an expanded strike zone last night as opposed to John Lester for the Cubs, who did not. And Lester didn't pitch absolutely terrible. He gave up 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings. He had 7 strikeouts. So he didn't pitch absolutely terrible, but definitely he did get the loss, and he did give up 3 runs in less than 6 innings. So not too great. But everyone was saying Kluber got a little bit of an expanded strike zone. I think you have to sort of credit some of that to Roberto Perez and his ability to frame the ball so nicely. Yeah, and he really just allowed Corey Kluber to get a little bit more room.
Yeah, no, 100%. Right now, Perez is looking, short sample, looking like the World Series MVP. Get 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, and yeah, you absolutely do the thing where it's gamesmanship with baseball, right? It's kind of one of those things where we're allowing you to cheat while you're not exactly getting yelled at for it, kind of framing pitches, which is basically trying to lie to the umpire. But, yeah, he was doing it better than Ross was for Chicago, and it's one of those things where, he did that, got some home runs for the team. They're up 1-0 now. They won 6-0. Like I said, they were up 3-0 for a decent part of the game. Top of the 9th comes to get 3 more runs. At that point, good night. Everything was pretty much done for the Cubs. They had a little bit of hope or whatever in the bottom of the 9th. But now, after that, Chicago and Cleveland, now you're going into Game 2. Game 2, you got Jake Arrieta, you got Trevor Bauer, and, with the Cubs, you want to win this game because if you go down 0-2, I understand that you got, games in Chicago coming up after this, but you don't really, with all the kind of history of the Cubs and everything else, you want to get at least one game in Cleveland, so that way you got some confidence. Because, again, the one thing we've seen with Chicago throughout the playoffs, their offense, nothing. They got no runs. They were close, obviously, you said bases loaded, but it was one of those things where, again, they score 0 runs, and you kind of want to at least get back to scoring, call it 4 runs, 5 runs. You don't have to score 10 runs like they did in a couple games, but you just have to at least get like some 4 or 5 run games.
Games 3, 4, and 5 will be in Chicago, so they do have a little bit of an edge. Game 3 will be Friday. We obviously have Game 2 tonight, as you mentioned, Trevor Bauer and Jake Arrieta. The bloody finger of Trevor Bauer. It seems like everything's healed up. He had a simulated game a couple days ago, and he didn't have any issues. So I would give the Cubs sort of the edge tonight. Arrieta has not pitched well in this whole entire postseason, but, I mean, he's still the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner. He's still a very capable pitcher. And Bauer, I'm sure he's probably still dealing with that injury on his pinky a little bit on his throwing hand. But last night it was really, just Cleveland. And I think what Terry Francona did was absolutely phenomenal. He's a great manager. Terry Francona now 9-0 in the World Series. Obviously the 2 sweeps with Boston and then winning Game 1 last night. So he's 9-0 as a manager in the World Series. I thought what he did last night was absolutely perfect because he pulled Corey Kluber after 6 innings, 6 solid innings.
Right.
Well, really, he went 6+ because he gave up the first hit in the 7th inning. Then he went to Andrew Miller.
Yeah.
But I thought what Terry Francona did was fantastic because he limited Kluber's pitch count. He only threw 88 pitches last night. So that sets him up perfectly to throw in Game 4 and then if need be, Game 7. So he's limiting his pitch count because that bullpen in Cleveland is so good. You know you're going to get 2 innings out of Miller. You have Cody Allen, you have Shaw you can throw out there. Those 3 guys are lights out.
Yeah.
So you know if you can get at least 6 innings from your starter, the bullpen is going to carry it the rest of the way. And he's not afraid to go to them early.
Yeah.
So if you can limit people like Kluber's pitch count, you set him up for even maybe 3 starts in this series if it goes all the way, which I honestly do. On Monday, I thought the Indians would win in 7 games. So I really think that was beautiful and set up perfectly by Terry Francona. Great move.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a lot easier when you have total faith. Like we saw this thing with the Giants, no faith in the bullpen. You basically wanted either Bumgardner or Moore, whoever else, to go like 9 innings if they could. Francona over in Cleveland, he's like, okay, you got 6 innings in you. You feel good. You're fine. All right, we're going to go to Miller. All right, Miller, get him. And, did what Miller does. Like, yeah, he gave up a couple hits and a couple walks, but 3 strikeouts in 2 innings, still not giving up any runs, still being Andrew Miller, still being the guy we saw in the ALCS, small and over dude. So, yeah, if you're Francona, like you said, 9-0, like I didn't even realize that. Like that's, the 2 World Series he went to, he swept. And, now with the Indians, you're set up pretty well. Like I said, Trevor Bauer is not doing too well. In September, his ERA was 6.75. Arrieta's 4.60, so both of them kind of struggling going into the playoffs. Maybe have a little bit more faith in Arrieta because you saw what he did last year when he was lights out. This year kind of got back to how he's used to been, but even with all that being said, still 18-8 with a 3.1 ERA. So he's still a good, very good pitcher, just not lights out as he was last year. You would think that the advantage is going to go to Arrieta, someone who's got a little bit more of a track record of being a great pitcher than Bauer. Plus, Bauer, like you said, he went through a simulated start and everything was fine. But, even in the playoffs, he was 4 2/3 inning against the Red Sox, gave up 3 runs. So, even recently in the playoffs, he hasn't looked like himself.
Arrieta's ERA this postseason is 4.91, so definitely not showing the same effect he had last year. But Bauer's 5.06. So definitely Arrieta has a little bit of the edge there in the ERA battle. But, I mean, it seems like we both think that the Cubs are going to win tonight.
Right.
So I do like the Cubs tonight. But honestly, I would not be surprised if the Indians win yet again. They're really riding a lot of high from their city. They're now 9-1 in the postseason.
Right.
So they're playing great. I think Terry Francona has a clear managerial advantage because I think although the Cubs bullpen is good, I think the Indians is a lot better. I think Andrew Miller is definitely the X factor of the whole entire World Series, and he's played like it so far. He gets out of a bases loaded, no out jam, doesn't even give up a run yesterday. You got a walk off Miller, you got a hit off of Miller. I don't think you're going to get much more out of that. So, I mean, I'll give the Cubs Game 2, and then I really think this series is going 7. I'll take the Indians in 7. I think they're just playing better right now. The Cubs have been the best team all year long, but the Indians are just playing better right now, and I was not surprised they won Game 1 last night. I thought they would win Game 1 last night.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. With Cleveland, they're kind of riding a hot streak. They've kind of been consistent. Like, they didn't hit well at all in the AL series. I forget what the number was, but it was like 164, something like that. Something really low batting average, the lowest batting average to make it to the World Series. But like you said, be it their bullpen or be it timely hitting or stealing bases with Lindor, whatever it was, they were able to kind of keep going, winning the games and advancing. And with the Cubs, we've seen the struggles they've had recently, so it makes sense that you throw somebody, like Kluber, who's been really good all year, you throw him to an offense that hasn't been hitting like it was. It totally makes sense that the Cubs would kind of struggle in Game 1.
Yeah, Francisco Lindor, you mentioned, had 3 hits last night, as well as Jose Ramirez, the third baseman for the Indians, 3 hits.
Right.
Tonight, Game 2 has been pushed up an hour, so it's 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern, because they are worried about some rain issues maybe later in the day, and it is going to be cold there in Cleveland. It's middle of October, really almost the end of October, and it's Cleveland. It starts snowing back there, but they are worried about some rain issues. It's going to be cold, so we'll have to see if that has an effect. The weather has an effect on the game. Maybe on a couple of these starting pitchers. Jake Arrieta threw in a blistering cold game against the Mets last year and really struggled. He didn't even come out with long sleeves on, so maybe that had an effect. But have to see what will happen tonight. Game 2, Fox, 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. Definitely going to have to be watching that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys, so we'll take our first break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Coming out of the break, we are finally talking some National Basketball Association because we had the NBA return last night with 3 games on the regular season schedule and then more tonight. Anthony and I will do a preview of pretty much everything basketball, champions, MVPs, Rookie of the Year, surprise teams, whatever you want to call it. We will be doing that right after the break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Going to be talking some basketball. As we mentioned, the Cleveland Cavaliers raised the championship banner and get their rings last night after winning the 2016 NBA Finals. And they took on the New York Knicks last night, and LeBron James literally picking up right where he left off. He messes around in Game 1 and gets a triple-double, 19 points, 14 assists, 11 rebounds. Kyrie Irving leads the way with 29 points as the Cavs absolutely thrash the New York Knicks 117-88.
They're going to win the Eastern Conference within like 2 months, a month and a half of the season being over. Like, there's basically no one that'll contend with them for the number 1 seed. Like, you'll have other teams that are good, be it the Boston Celtics, Toronto Raptors, or whatever else like that. You'll have teams that are kind of contenders to like maybe do something in the Eastern Conference, but they're going to win it like outright, just period, end of story. The only reason they don't win the Eastern Conference is they don't want to. Like, if they just basically sit a bunch of people. And we've seen LeBron, who's kind of, after winning a third title, kind of in the kind of like angry testing mode a little bit, where he's just like, people are saying like, oh, you've been in the league a while, you're going to start resting, maybe only play like 60 games, and you're not going to win MVP. And he's like, no, don't say that. Like, I'm getting this MVP. Like, he basically wants to do it. And there is a little bit of precedent of why he wants to do it, because you kind of look at Michael Jordan and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, both had 5 MVPs, so he kind of wants to be at that level. So I get him kind of wanting to kind of stick the legacy at that point, just to kind of be at those guys' level. But, I mean, that whole game, the Knicks are going to be better, right? You get Kristaps Porzingis, Carmelo Anthony, Noah, Derrick Rose, but Noah looks washed.
He didn't even score last night.
Yeah.
Joakim Noah plays 20 minutes. He takes 1 shot. Yeah. Doesn't score.
Greatest shot ever.
I literally call it the globe because it spins like a globe as opposed to spinning like straight backwards.
It's not the worst shot I've seen in the NBA. It's up there. It's along with, I don't know if you've ever seen like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist's shot where his elbow's basically just like all contorted and whatnot, and then you got things like Sean Marion that shoots from his hip or whatever. But I
always loved Kevin Martin like coming he was a good shooter back in the day, but he would just come down with it and
he would take it from his hip and up and over. Yeah. But, the Knicks are going to be an okay team. They may get, something around, the 8 seed, 7 seed, something like that. They'll be a fine enough team. They'll make the playoffs probably. But Noah looks washed. It's one game, so who knows. Derrick Rose doing Derrick Rose things, shooting under 50%, going 7 for 17 shots, 17 points. Melo's fine, whatever, 8 for 18. And Porzingis, whatever. He was
probably their most efficient player last night.
Right. So, it's one of those things where – you got the momentum of the Cavaliers, you got the momentum of Cleveland, raising the banner, getting their rings. The Indians playing the same day, city of Cleveland losing their minds. Now they're finally the championship city. And the Knicks, who are just meh, they're kind of okay. And like you said, LeBron James, 19, 11, and 14, didn't even try that much, just 9 of 14, just kind of ho-hum, whatever, triple-double. Kyrie Irving looks like a guy that will contend for MVP consideration if doesn't go to LeBron. Kevin Love, even 23 points, 12 rebounds. So the whole team, just basically they're going to be running on autopilot all year and probably win somewhere around 60 to 65 games.
I do like Cleveland again in the East. I can honestly see this happening. And I realize it's just game one, so there's not much to really go off of. But I can honestly see LeBron kind of in the regular season saying, okay, Kyrie, I'm going to take a step back to save myself for the playoffs a little bit. I'm getting up there. I'm 31 now. I've been in the league for 13 years.
Yeah.
I could see him maybe saying, I'm going to take a little step back, and I kind of want you – I'm going to be there. Don't get me wrong. I'll have my games. But I kind of want you to, carry this team. Last night he takes 22 shots. Kevin Love takes 15. LeBron takes 14. J.R. Smith takes 13. So LeBron wasn't even – that much really contributing for shooting last night. He was the third highest field goal shooter in the game, and then J.R. Smith was right behind him at 13. So don't get me wrong, he's still getting his. He has a triple-double, for Christ's sakes. But I see him maybe saying, okay, this is going to be Kyrie's time to kind of shine. I'm going to take a step back. I'm maybe going to have not necessarily huge scoring numbers and kind of rest for the playoffs a little bit because that's when it's going to really count. So, I think what you said about the Knicks is right. I think they're going to be improved. I think they'll be a playoff team. I wouldn't really trust them that much. Derrick Rose, I can't trust to stay healthy. I think Carmelo Anthony is a cancer to any team, along with people like James Harden and Dwight Howard. I think they're those guys that don't make your team better.
Sure.
And they're never going to win championships because of that. Carmelo had a pretty good Olympics.
Loves the Olympics. That's his thing.
That's pretty easy
his
when
jam.
you play with 11 other All-Stars.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I won't take much into it. It's only one game. The Knicks did lose by 29 points, but I won't take much into it. But another team that lost, ironically, by 29 points last night was the Golden State Warriors. The San Antonio Spurs go into Oakland to face the newly acquired super team with Kevin Durant and absolutely destroy the Warriors 129-100. We have a career-high 35 points from Kawhi Leonard to lead the way for San Antonio. He shot 15 of 15 from the free throw line. Absolutely incredible. Durant had a pretty good debut. He had 27 points and 10 rebounds and shot 11 of 18. He was probably the most efficient member of the Warriors last night. But I saw this picture and this meme, and it kind of made me laugh. It was Kevin Durant and Steph Curry standing there talking, and then it was I thought you said this was going to be easy. And then I realized it's just one game.
Right.
And, losing by 29, though, that's something the Warriors didn't do at all last year.
True.
So, like I said, it's only one game, but we saw this with Miami. We saw this with Boston. We're going to see it with Golden State. It's going to take time for all these guys to gel together.
100%.
All these guys are, I'm not going to say selfish, but they all want their shots.
Right.
Durant took 18, Curry took 18, Thompson took 13, and Draymond Green took 15.
Yeah.
So they're all going to want their shots. And I feel like there's going to be nights where one of them is going to say, you know what, I haven't been shooting that well. I kind of want to go up and just take 20 shots. I don't care, And then they're going to win a lot of games and everything, but they're going to take time to gel. It's not going to be, we're going to turn the light on all of a sudden and win 75 games.
Right.
It's not going to be that easy.
Yeah. No. Miami the year Miami got LeBron, they went 9-8 to start off. Kind of feeling everything out. The Celtics, and you saw in the playoffs, they went to Game 7 in the first round against the Hawks. Things take time to gel with teams. And, they lost by 29 points, which is kind of like an eye-popping thing. It's wow, you lost by that much. But we kind of forget how good the Spurs are. As good as the Warriors were last year, and they were phenomenal, the Spurs went 67-15 with a relatively, at least offensively, washed Tim Duncan. You replace him with Pau Gasol, who's, at least statistically, offensively about the same guy. Maybe defensively, Duncan was a little bit better because he could still do those Duncan things. But you do that. I mean, you saw what Simmons was last night. I don't know where that dude came from. He's getting 20 points.
Literally
off the bench.
just a product of the Spurs.
I mean, I guess, but
they're like the New England Patriots of basketball.
100%.
They just get production from anybody they put out there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last year he didn't even play that much, but everyone loved Boban. They just 9'7" guy, just all of a sudden destroying people. He goes over to Detroit. Now you get Simmons, who comes in, who played 55 games last year, only averaged 6 points a game. This year, I mean, I understand he's not going to score 20 a game, but coming off the bench, scoring 20 points, and he had this block, this kind of LeBron James-esque chase down block on Steph Curry, where, God, Steph, we're going to make so many jokes with Steph. Forget about Durant. Those are coming, and that's fine because you left Westbrook and somehow you made Westbrook a sympathetic, figure. And I love Westbrook, but he was not a sympathetic figure, and somehow you made him, the crazy Westbrook, a sympathetic figure. But this whole team, every time they lose, and they're probably going to lose 10, 12, 15 games this year because they're not going to try and, go after the record again because they have it. Why would they try and beat their own record? They have it.
You could tell they were clearly exhausted at the end of the season, and the record for most wins is not really much of a priority this year, I guess you can say. Did you see what Russell Westbrook tweeted last night after the game?
No.
It was absolutely phenomenal.
What did
he
do?
tweets, he goes, well, good start to the new NBA season,
Yes.
LOL. So he's just definitely throwing shade the Warriors' way, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
My favorite, thing to watch is the NBA season because there's only a few things really you can care about with this NBA season, right? Because you got to assume the Warriors are going to be good. You got to assume the Cavs are going to be good. You got to assume they're going to be two of the teams at least in the, they're probably going to be two of the four teams that are in the conference finals. So, it's more like watching, other things. I want to see if Damian Lillard feels slighted again if he doesn't make the All-Star team like he did last year. I want to see how many points James Harden can actually score now that D'Antoni is his coach. And
he's going to put up a lot of offensive numbers.
So many
On
points.
defense, I mean, I don't think he could guard his shadow. But
no, that's
on
fine.
offense, he can light it up.
But did you see D'Antoni's teams when he was in Phoenix?
Right.
They didn't play defense either.
Pick
Totally
and roll
fine.
with Nash and Stoudemire, and they just torched everyone on the perimeter with
which Marion can
three-point
play
shots.
defense, so it kind of helped with the team defense like that. But Westbrook, he is going to take all the shots because who does he trust on that team? Tell me someone he trusts on that team to do good things. He had Durant, and fine, you trust him because he's Durant. Who does he trust? He likes
Steven Adams.
No, not to score points.
I'm just kidding.
To fight people because he looks like a pirate, not to score points. And he likes Oladipo as a person, but he's going to look all of them and just look all of them dead in the eye. Who are you? How are you on this team? Roberson, that dude can't shoot. Oladipo.
No, he's a good defender.
He's a good defender. Can't shoot. He's captain self-check. He's the dude that you basically leave open. It's just yeah. You figure it out. If you want to shoot from there and you make it, congratulations. But there's little tiny things that I want to see this year with the NBA, kind of micro things.
Definitely. And then we had one other game last night on the slate of schedules, and we had Damian Lillard, in my eyes, really just a dark horse for the MVP. And I think I think Lillard is probably one of the most undervalued stars in this league. Last night he goes for 39 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. He shot 9 of 9 from the free throw line, 4 of 6 from 3, and 13 of 20 overall. Absolutely torches the Utah Jazz in a 113-104 victory for Portland. We also had C.J. McCollum with 25 points. That backcourt is absolutely phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Joe Johnson, a pretty good debut at 35 years old for the Jazz, 29 points, 12 of 16 from the field. So now let's jump into just our season preview.
Right.
So let's start with MVP. Mm-hmm. Who you got?
I'll say LeBron.
Okay.
I'll say LeBron because we've seen that, basically with LeBron, if he has, this goal of, okay, I really want to do this, he's going to do it. And the problem is you look at the other people who are going to win MVP. It's not going to be Steph Curry. It's not going to be Kevin Durant or, anybody on the Warriors. They're basically going to, split the reps with themselves. And you look at everybody else. Maybe James Harden, right, if he can get the team to be more competitive, and maybe they get to a 4th seed or something like that. Maybe you give it to Harden because, to be fair, 2 years ago he was basically the second choice for MVP behind Steph Curry. Maybe look at someone like Westbrook or someone like that. But the list isn't very long unless Anthony Davis comes back and loses his mind, or Karl Anthony Towns helps the Timberwolves make it to a 4th seed or something like that in the West. there's not that many. Like you said, Damian Lillard, maybe if Blake Griffin can turn a corner with the Clips or something like that. But I'm going to say LeBron just in basically a, bleep this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get my 5th MVP ring or MVP, whatever you want to call it. Trophy, that one. And just, this is mine, and then from there, maybe after that he doesn't care so much about MVP trophies.
I think it could be interesting. I'm going to say LeBron, too. I realize I just said maybe he takes a step back, but I don't see it because this is LeBron. He's never done that in his whole entire career. So I want to say LeBron, too, but I think we don't have any clear-cut favorite going right out of the gate.
Right.
And I think we have a handful of guys that I can honestly see at the end of the year saying, I'm not surprised he was the MVP. One of them, Damian Lillard, I just mentioned.
Right.
Obviously, you have Westbrook going to be stealing the show in OKC. Thoughts are if he could average a triple-double. I don't think he can. I think it's going to be too hard to do consistently day in and day out. I think he'll probably lead the league in triple-doubles, but I think averaging it probably far stretch.
Yeah.
Also, I look at Kawhi Leonard. Last night scores 35 points, career high. You don't have Tim Duncan anymore, so Kawhi Leonard and really Aldridge, but I say more so Leonard, is clearly the leader of this team, which is maybe the second or third best team in the league. He was second in the MVP voting last year. He's Defensive Player of the Year for 2 years in a row now. I can honestly see Kawhi Leonard being the MVP. Lillard, Westbrook. I'm going to go with LeBron, though. I just can't bet against LeBron literally ever after everything he's done. Okay, let's go with Rookie of the Year now.
So I'm going to do it a little bit differently because basically I think we've seen that Ben Simmons isn't going to play as much this year. You know, he's got the foot injury, and you've seen Rich Paul basically kind of jokingly come out and say, oh, maybe he doesn't play this year, right? Kind of the thing of just not wanting him to be anything less than what he can be and also not wanting to get hurt more. I'm going to go with – because I'm trying to decide between two people. I either want to go with Chris Dunn in Minnesota or Jaylen Brown in Boston, because we've seen with Boston they can kind of work guys in how it fits them best. I mean, we saw basically Evan Turner become a solid enough player with the Celtics last year. And then for Chris Dunn, you get someone in Minnesota who is going to split reps, at least in the beginning, with Ricky Rubio at point guard. But, we saw how good Chris Dunn was in college, and I think I'll go with Chris Dunn. I'll say Chris Dunn more because I think he's going to get more offensive numbers just to kind of show what he can do. With Boston, it's kind of like a whole team thing. They spread it around a lot more, and don't get me wrong, Chris Dunn's going to be sharing it with something like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine. But I'm going to say that Chris Dunn does just enough. He's going to get the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I loved the draft pick of Dunn out of Providence. Defensive point guard, a guy who's has good size. He can play both positions.
And you put him with Thibodeau.
You put Tom Thibodeau, who's probably one of the best defensive minds in basketball. I think that's a match made in heaven.
Yep.
I do like that pick. I'm going to go a different way, though. I think it comes down to maybe one of two guys. I'm going to go with Brandon Ingram from Duke and now at the Lakers because I think just the chance for him to score and produce there is obviously really high because the Lakers don't have much.
True.
Kobe Bryant's retired. They're going to be leaning on D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle a lot, some of their younger guys. But you put Ingram right into that small forward, power forward position, and I realize he's kind of undersized. He's super skinny. He's skinnier than me, for Christ's sakes.
Right.
And I don't really weigh much. But so he's super skinny, so I think he needs to bulk up. But I think just the opportunity for production is there because he's going to be playing a lot, and there's no one else with him. But the dark horse here, and someone you might want to keep your eyes on, is actually a guy who's considered to have his rookie eligibility still because he hasn't played yet. But a guy who's his third year in the league now, and that's Joel Embiid from Philadelphia.
Right.
I think if Embiid can stay healthy, which I honestly don't think so, but if he can stay healthy, I think he has a good shot. I think he's going to be a good player because he hasn't played a game yet. He's still considered a rookie, kind of like Blake Griffin when he won his Rookie of the Year. So I think it'll be Ingram, but the surprise and one to look at is probably Embiid with the Sixers. So now let's go to we'll do Coach of the Year, we'll do Surprise Team, then we'll do finals matchups. So let's do Coach of the Year.
I'm gonna go Thibodeau.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
are you saying your surprise team is the Wolves as well?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Okay.
I would go with Thibodeau just because you've seen what he can do. He took a team in Chicago when he came there in 2011, and he took the team from 41-41 when they had Vinny Del Negro, and he made it into a 60-win team, in his first year. Now, I understand that 2011 team, I think that was the year they had Derrick Rose. Yeah, they had Derrick Rose on that team. So, I mean, he was ascending and everything else like that. But you give Tom Thibodeau, who's a defensive guy, Andrew Wiggins, because Andrew Wiggins is basically going to be his new Luol Deng, Jimmy Butler, kind of like that slasher defender that can do a bunch of things. You give him Karl Anthony Towns, who's going to probably take another step this year, maybe get around 25 points a game. You give him Chris Dunn. You give him Zach LaVine. You give him a pretty stacked roster of really good young players, some of the best young roster we've seen since, that Oklahoma City team back in about 2011-12 when they had Harden, Durant, Westbrook, everybody. Yeah, I would say Thibodeau.
Okay, the Wolves are my surprise team as well. I really do like, it's really just a match made in heaven. Thibodeau had so much success with the Bulls. Now you put him with the last 2 reigning Rookie of the Year awards and a chance where you could have 3 with Dunn between Anthony Towns and Wiggins, who are going to be absolutely stars in this league. I think LaVine's pretty good coming off the bench, super athletic. My coach of the year, I'm going to go a different way, though. I'm going to kind of throw out a surprise here. I'm going to say Nate McMillan with the Pacers.
Okay.
I really like what the Pacers have done this offseason. You have Paul George, who's an absolute star. You bring in Jeff Teague. You have Monte Ellis, who's capable of scoring. Indiana's had success over the last few years. They almost beat Miami through some of those runs when they had Roy Hibbert and everyone. And
you replaced him basically with Miles Turner.
Right, so I'm going to go with Nate McMillan. He's had coaching success with Portland back in the day, Seattle. So I'm going to go with Nate McMillan, and I think the Pacers are going to be probably in the Eastern Conference Finals really with Cleveland in my eyes. So I do think Cleveland will probably go to the finals, but I think Indiana's going to be a really, really good team. I love Paul George. Got to love his size at 6'10", can play out on the perimeter, can dunk it in down low. Very versatile player, and I think Jeff Teague's a great point guard, and I think Monte Ellis is a capable scorer. So I'm going to say Indiana with Nate McMillan.
I like that.
Let's do our finals prediction and champion now. So are we on the same page here? We have a rematch of last year, Cavs and Warriors.
Philadelphia versus Sacramento. NBA Finals. 100%.
I was thinking the Lakers and the Cavs.
Clearly.
But really,
I mean, that's the one thing that does stink about the NBA right now is just maybe the Spurs crack into the NBA Finals. Maybe some team like the Celtics gets a surprise trip to the Eastern Conference Finals and wins. But, I mean, at this point, we're just waiting, 7.5 months?
I'm with you, buddy. That's the one thing that is kind of hard for me to get into basketball with. I love basketball. I mean, I used to play it. But really, if I can say at the start of the season that I honestly think there's 3 teams that can win a title, why am I going to start watching it in October? And
that's why I was talking about the kind of smaller Westbrook and see what he does if he goes nuts and everything else like that.
I realize anything can happen. Injuries decide everything.
Right.
But
you're also banking on a LeBron James injury that hasn't happened in 13 years.
In the NBA, it's a series. So the best team will win the series. In baseball, if you have hot pitching, that usually carries you. In football, it's a one-game playoff, so anything can happen. Hockey, hot goaltenders a lot of times dominate. In basketball, in a series, the best team usually wins. The team that makes the best adjustments usually wins. If I can say right now that I think there's 3 teams that can honestly win the title, it's hard for me to get into it in October. Obviously, you're excited for the start of the season. You want to see how your favorite team is doing, how some of your favorite players are doing, how guys adjust to different situations like Durant in Oakland. So, but yeah, I'm with you, man. I think it's Cavs Warriors again, and it's so hard to bet against the Warriors with what they're going to have. But I think I'm gonna go with the Cavs again because I can never bet against LeBron James with what he's done. I realized 2 years ago he lost the finals, but he had to do everything himself.
Right.
Last year, he did the exact same thing with help. So I'm going to say the Cavs again over the Warriors in 7 games, just like we had last year. But, I mean, it's hard to bet against the Warriors. But it's just that LeBron factor. He's still the best player in the world. I'm not going to go against that.
He's still the best player in the world. It'll go 6 or 7 games with the Cavs and the Warriors. But the one thing, the easiest thing to say basically is you replaced Harrison Barnes with Kevin Durant, forgetting the fact that Bogut's gone, and you replaced a lot of kind of other smaller players that matter, be it Barbosa or Space, people that actually contributed to the team. But they were so close, the Warriors were last year, to winning Game 7. Forget about the series, just to winning Game 7, minus basically Steph Curry and all the team going cold in Game 7. Forget about Steph Curry basically doing that behind-the-back pass that went out of bounds. Forget about the fact that, LeBron had that chase down block, which was one of the greatest finals plays you probably will ever see. They were so close with that team. And one of the reasons they didn't win is maybe Steph Curry was hurt, maybe they were fatigued, everything else like that. Now you give them Kevin Durant, who Kevin Durant's not going to be the, best player on the court because that all depends on how Curry or LeBron is playing. But you get those three guys who have the ultra green light in Curry, Thompson, and Durant. And LeBron's great, but their specialty, like them being their best, I don't think is going to be good enough to do it, because basically what they did last year was it basically said, okay, cool, we're just going to basically go garbage basketball. I don't mean garbage basketball, but I mean like you brought in big guys like Tristan Thompson. You have them basically kind of bully them a little bit. You like assuming that everyone's healthy and assuming they've gelled enough to get to the finals, because you're going to have some hiccups in the start of the season, but assuming they're gelling enough by the time the finals starts, I can't go against the Warriors. It's
definitely very valid. I think with the Warriors, and I'm not going to take too much into consideration last night, but I will mention they gave up 129 points. So that's a lot of points. But
they're going to give up a lot of points.
The thing with me, the Warriors, you have those four guys on offense, and even if you throw in Iguodala a little bit as kind of like that slasher role, you have like 4, maybe 5 guys who can score at will, and you have Durant and Curry who can really score anytime they want in my eyes. If we just fast forward to the finals and expect what we think is going to be there, you're going to have LeBron guarding Durant, a tough matchup.
Right.
You're going to have Kyrie Irving on Steph Curry, a tough matchup. You're going to have Klay Thompson with J.R. Smith. I give Thompson that edge. Then you have no real post presence inside to play defense against Tristan Thompson or Kevin Love. Right. So the Warriors really lost that post presence with Bogut, and we saw in the finals last year, Bogut went down, and then they started losing games. And I'm not going to say it's because of Bogut, but that presence inside is definitely something that you have to take into consideration. I think that's the one thing the Warriors will probably struggle with this year is their defense inside. They don't have anybody that can stop anybody down there.
Yeah,
they're going to score everything on the perimeter, and that's great. But Draymond Green's kind of undersized. He's not going to guard centers down there. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's like 6'7". So, but nevertheless, we'll have to wait and see. The Warriors not off to a good start after one game, lose by 29. The Cavs on the flip side beat the Knicks by 29. So kind of some ironic there. But we'll take our last break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Coming out of the break, we're just going to jump on some quick trending stories before we end the show. So we'll be right back, guys, right after this commercial at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look on pop culture.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Going to end the show with a couple of quick, humorous trending stories before Anthony and I exit the door today. So I will start off first. Both of them are NFL player related. So first off, I will jump on Anthony. Next Monday is Halloween.
Yes.
Definitely a day where it's actually the second top grossing holiday, if you want to call it a holiday, in the United States. Obviously, first is Christmas.
Right.
People spend the second most money on Halloween. Mm-hmm. You have your costume, you have candy, decorations, parties. So not really surprising.
Right.
But if you're still undecided on what you want as your Halloween costume, I might have an idea for you.
Okay.
You could be Brock Osweiler for Halloween for the cheap price of $72 million. Mm-hmm. You could be a garbage can with number 17 on it for only $72 million. These are some of the memes that have been going on about the Houston Texans quarterback really since Monday. Since Monday night, I should say, because he put in another terrible, terrible performance on Monday night. And his season stats, not any better. So Osweiler is throwing 58%, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's got 5 fumbles already as well. He's got a quarterback rating of 71.9. So he's not doing too well, Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, he is just the king right now of the captain checkdown thing. I mean, he is just like his average throw is 5.72 yards. Like he's not even throwing it down the field, and he's what, like 6'7"? Yeah, 6'8". Like he's a giant dude.
Big guy.
I understand if you're like small and maybe you can't do that. 6'7", 6'8", big dude, can't throw down the field. He's been terrible. The trash can meme, fantastic. It's just like setting money on fire, just ski masking the entire Houston Texans organization. You see what happened when he was like trying to get the money from Denver, and Denver, who has seen him and understands what he can do, was like, no, that's cool. You go over to Houston, you have fun with that. We're not giving you that money. We've seen how good you are. We decided to take the dude with the trick neck, and basically have him play the rest of the year for us and get a Super Bowl. We're good. He goes to Houston, and everyone in Houston's like, yeah, we got him. All right. We got Lamar Miller. We got Will Fuller. We got DeAndre Hopkins. This offense is going to be great. Nope.
Yeah, Osweiler threw for 131 yards on 41 attempts. He averaged 3 yards an attempt on Monday. And, there's even more of these. This was actually from the Houston Chronicle, but the page with all these memes is at NFL_memes. So if you want to see more of just any memes in general. But there's a lot of great ones. There's like Osweiler on one of those like mugshot boards behind you with like the height and everything. And it's like report Houston man accused of robbing local team for $72 million. And it's his face. There's John Elway and Gary Kubiak laughing. And then it says, and then he said, I think I'm worth $72 million. And he's laughing. Oh, man, some of these are absolutely fantastic. And Osweiler not doing too well with Houston. And for me, what makes this so bad is you're only 7 games through your season.
Right.
And you're already done with this guy. He signed a multi-year deal, $72 million, $37 million guaranteed. You're only 7 games in. Like, you're not even through the bulk of this yet, and you're already done with the guy. As far as fans go, that just spells recipe for disaster, honestly.
It's different scales and everything, right? But, it's kind of around the same thing that happened with the Packers and Seahawks when they had Matt Flynn. How he had like a great game, and Seattle's like, yeah, we'll take him. And then he got to Seattle, and they're like, oh, no, we're going to go with Russell Wilson. No. You sit down. Never mind. We're sorry, Matt Flynn. Yeah. We're just going to eat that money. Forget about it. But that was only $20.5 million. This is way more than that. And I'm not saying they have to look at a quarterback in the draft, but if you're the Texans, it's not like the people they have behind him are going to do that well. Like, at this point, you may have to look for a quarterback. Maybe not in the first round, but like the second or third, if you see somebody that kind of catches your eye and like, oh, that guy looks, somewhat decent, maybe you take a flyer on him because outside of him, you got Tom Savage, who kind of looked the part coming out of college, but he can't be any good. And Brandon Whedon, we've seen him. He's awful. He's like 97 years old, played in the league. Like,
he was like a 27 or 28-year-old rookie.
Coming out of college, yes. He's 33 right now. 33. Yeah, he's no good. Also, his profile picture on ESPN is very scary. Like, it's like he looks like the Chucky doll. It's kind of strange. Anyways,
well, with the orange hair and stuff.
Yes, it looks it's no good. But yeah, so if you're the Houston Texans, you gotta kind of start looking at quarterbacks because maybe he can turn it around. Because to be fair to the Houston Texans, their division stinks, so they may actually win the division. And you have the Lions, Jaguars coming up in your next 2 games, so maybe you win those games. But if he still stinks in the next 2 games, like he stunk against the Colts, except for those last couple of drives, and he stunk against the Broncos, may have to look at a new quarterback. But speaking of the NFL, we're going to go over to my, kind of trending story. My boy Rob Gronkowski. I love him. He's great. He is an insane person. He is a child. I don't know if anybody you saw what he did, because now he has 68 touchdowns. This isn't the story, but this is a side note. He has 68 touchdown passes as a New England Patriots. He loves that. There's a number that comes after 69, which he was very happy and delightful to tell everybody that that's going to be the next number that he gets. So he's a child. He decides.
I love Gronk.
He's the best. So he decides to do that thing that you've seen kind of other people do, where it's basically like you get into a disguise and you be a Lyft driver. So he's driving people around and everything else like that, wearing somewhat of a disguise. Like he had like a blonde wig on and like a brunette wig. I don't know why you're gonna have a brown. You already have brown hair, but whatever. He's gonna basically more hair, put a hat on, try to kind of disguise himself a little bit. And nobody, at least apparently, knew who he was. They all kind of played along with like, "Oh, are you a Patriots fan?" And they're like, "Oh, no, I'm a Lions fan or whatever." Goes through the whole thing. Finally does a reveal of like, "Oh, I'm Gronkowski." Doesn't look any different. Looks like the same dude. But going in there, he's just like making a little bit of jokes, like, "Oh yeah, I never miss a Patriots game." Obviously, I know all the people, I know the center on the team and stuff like that. Just being Gronk, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, we've seen this before from a lot of different athletes. I know David Ortiz has done it.
Right.
Danica Patrick did it.
Yeah.
There were some others though, but a lot of people have done it. I know Sherman did it, and they all wear disguises and stuff, so I guess you can kind of hide their image a little bit.
Yeah.
But for most of these people, they're like sitting in the front seat, talking to them, looking right at them, and it's like, I realize not everyone's a big sports people like maybe you and I are, but
right.
How can you not realize like, hey, like, that guy looks really familiar to me for some reason. Or
But
like,
I was talking to you
this
about
guy's talking about all these Patriots, and that guy kind of looks familiar. Like this
Right.
might be a setup. Like,
But it's one of those things of like, because you and I talked about this, like, it's not that I've taken like a million Uber or Lyft drives, but I've taken enough. And given every time it's at nighttime, so maybe it's dark and you don't pay attention. But every time that's happened, outside of the, when you order it, through your phone, and you see the picture of the person, you don't look at who the driver actually is. Like, you're like, oh, were you, James or whatever? And they're like, yeah, like, okay, cool. Then you get in and you drive around and you talk to the person, but you're never like looking at them. So maybe it's just one of those things of just like, oh, we're going to go along with this. Because even if he looks like someone you think he looks like, you don't have the confidence to say like, oh, you look like Gronkowski. Because if he looks at you sideways and he's like, I look like who? You're like, oh, never mind. You're kind of just going to go along with it. So I can get that. And some of the people they were showing, like, they didn't care about sports at all. Like, so.
Honestly, like, I'm sure they probably have at least one or two people maybe that are like, okay, you're Gronk, and they're gonna edit that out.
Yeah,
like, they're not gonna
100%.
show you that. So it's like,
Right.
I'm sure there's probably a few people who are like, okay, you're totally Rob Gronk, or like, you're totally Richard Sherman. Like, yeah, I'm not stupid, but and of course they edited that out. So maybe there is, but it still makes for a great video.
Oh,
so.
100%. Yeah. It's Gronkowski being Gronkowski, basically being able to basically do whatever he wants. Like, he's a Patriot that gets away with everything.
He's like the only one
Yes.
that's like not under wraps by Belichick. Like, he doesn't do. I mean, he's done like pretty stupid stuff.
He
like
does goofy
dancing
stuff.
in the club, like with
Right.
the broken arm and stuff. But
Yes.
he hasn't done anything to like violate any team rules or like get in trouble with the NFL's substance abuse or anything like that. So he's not doing anything that he's technically breaking the rules of anything, but he's not doing like the traditional Patriot way. You know what I mean? He's the only one that gets away with it. And it's because he's so good. I mean, this guy's a future Hall of Famer.
He did have that picture with a porn star.
But you know what I mean? Like, he's
but he hasn't done anything that's like
to get a suspension or anything like that.
Plus, at the same time, like, there's basically two people on offense that you can't punish if you're the Patriots, and that's basically Brady and Gronk. Because if you take those two away, your team isn't the same. Like, Brady, we've kind of seen as good as Garoppolo was and as good as Brissett was for one of the games, Brady's the man. And we've seen once Gronk becomes Gronk, like, Gronk is just one of those dudes that's just like, it's like a polar bear out there that they taught to catch a football. Like, he's just somebody who is just like, he's a child, but you throw him out on the field and he just wrecks secondaries. It's like, oh, we're going to defend Gronkowski. No, you're not. Touchdown. Like, he just goes out there. Doesn't matter what cover whatever you want to have. Touchdown.
He's literally one of the few unguardable players in the league because he's so big and so strong. Mm-hmm. He will either run you over or just take the ball from you. So he's literally unguardable, and he's just a matchup nightmare. That's why, obviously, he has so much success as he does. But
best play ever was last year in the playoffs, the game the Patriots ended up losing, but it was 4th down and whatever, and basically you knew they were going to Gronkowski. Brady just threw it, basically Hail Mary as pass, and Gronk's like, no, I got you, and still caught the ball in front of, like, everybody. Like, he's just one of those kind of freaks of natures.
Right, that's definitely Gronkowski, and he definitely has fun with the Gronk cruise, which he actually did retire, but definitely...
Hold on. How did he get away with that? Okay, I forgot about the Gronk.
He gets away with anything.
That's the thing, no, because we could talk about this list stuff, and that's really funny. We could talk about him scoring 69 touchdowns, whatever. That's totally fine. That's fine. He legitimately had the sex boat that Minnesota had that they got in trouble for. He literally had that, only it was like more of like a somehow team-sanctioned thing. Now, they're not going to have it ever again because you got away with it one time. Congratulations. Good for you. Never again. But... How do you get? Anyways, sorry. That's just one of those things.
He's Gronkowski, man. As long as he doesn't break the law and the rules, everything's good with him. And honestly, you can't really hate the guy for that. He does his job.
No, I love him. I'm not hating at all.
Exceptionally well. Yeah. So, but that's gonna end our show today. Definitely a lot of great segments: baseball, basketball, even some football here at the end. Some funny, clever football. But that's gonna end the show today. So for Alex, my name is Ben.
And I'm Anthony.
And we are going to be signing off here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you have a good day. Until tomorrow, we will see you next time. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.